evening and welcome to the Dave Cox Radio Show, powered by Miller Lite here on News Radio 920, 104.7 FM. Dave Cox Radio Show, powered by Miller Lite from Learfield IMG College. Learfield IMG College, Dave Cox Radio Show on the Rhodey Sports Network, driven by Lexus of Warwick. I want to thank our friends at Newport Propane, Rhode Island's #1 choice for all your propane needs. Family owned and operated since 1959, Newport Propane will treat you like part of the family. Visit them at newportpropane.com. Coach Cox, welcome once again. I know we're getting through the summer months now, and a lot is certainly happening. But first of all, wish your family well. Hopefully everybody is safe and healthy. How's the Cox family doing?
Everybody's doing well, Steve. It's good to see you. It's been a while since we've been able to get together and do one of these. Obviously, this pandemic has kept us all kind of hunkered down, but the priority right now for everybody is their health. Fortunately, my family has been able to steer clear of the virus thus far, and we've been healthy and kind of hunkered down here, and as well as my team. So trying times, but we're handling it as best we can.
Yeah, trying times indeed, Coach. And yesterday, the news broke about Ishmael Leggett, incoming freshman to the URI program, allegedly the target of a shooting incident in his hometown in Maryland. Multiple reports stating that Luke Hill, an 18-year-old, had been charged with 8 counts, including felony first-degree attempted murder. Ishmael was not harmed, according to all reports. I know you've talked to him, Coach. If you can give us an update and your thoughts on what is a nearly tragic situation that was certainly very, very scary.
Yeah, no, absolutely. A very unfortunate and potentially tragic situation. Fortunately, it was avoided as far as, Ishmael's health and his mother's health, both who were, there at the time of the incident. But without getting into specifics, we have spoken to them, and fortunately they are in good health. And at this point, that's all we can kind of pray for and hope for, and also just kind of be there for them during this time of need for them.
Coach, you often talk about family and how important that is in the sense of your program, and family at times like this, I guess, is the most important thing.
Family is the most important thing, and it is important that we all keep that in perspective. The pandemic has, it's obviously caused a lot of struggles here in American society, whether it be in health struggles or financial struggles. But at the end of the day, the family bond, I think is very important. And I think this is kind of God's way of showing us, how important it is to kind of just be together and love one another. And in this particular case, we're talking about an extended family member, basically, of the Rhode Island family. We've kind of just put our arms around them as a staff and as a team, and let them know that we are there for them.
Coach, you must be so anxious to get all your kids back on campus together.
Absolutely. I haven't been here for the past 6 weeks. Yes, it's been a stressful time for me, particularly since I'm just used to having them around, being able to interact with them every day, being able to reach out and touch them, be able to get them in the gym, be able to talk to them about, life and about academics. And I miss them. I miss them dearly. And just as important is the fact that, normally we are together at this point, building camaraderie, building team. And, because of the pandemic, we're all over the place at different places. Fortunately, we've been able to stay in constant contact with them, and everybody is healthy and in relatively good spirits.
Coach, you got some good news last night, some great news last night from Patch Russell.
Absolutely. He made my night. It's been we've had a lot of movement in the past 6 to 7 weeks, and obviously Fats has played his way. After last season, he played his way onto the NBA radar, so he got everything that he deserved. And him entering, the draft process is not something that everybody is afforded the opportunity to do. He took advantage of that opportunity, he and his family. I think that they made a sound decision in going that route. And I'm really excited about the decision that obviously he and his family made to come back and join us again for one more trip.
We're all watching his Instagram account last night at 8:00, and he stole a few MJ lines with "I'm back" and "The Last Dance." coming November 2020. Hopefully that is the case, that November 2020 is when we get playing basketball. Coach, talk about the process from the beginning for Fats when he first declared himself eligible and your role in his decision-making process since then.
Well, I had a relatively limited role, after he jumped into the process. But prior to it, I had conversations with both him and his family about, his career here, his progress, his maturity, and obviously the season that he had last year. And they all just felt it was the right time to get feedback, from the NBA. Obviously, I supported that wholeheartedly, as well as the rest of the staff and the rest of his teammates. And then they kind of just entered the process. And, he's been, even though the gyms have been closed, Fats is a gym rat. He's found his way to, to a court. So he's kind of been living in the gym somewhere in Philly. And with the assistance of his father, who was also his high school assistant coach. And they've also communicated with, a number of NBA teams and personnel to get the type of feedback that they needed. And they weighed that heavily, and they made the decision. And we're fortunate to have him back.
You talk about the feedback that they get. You hear from so many players that go through that process. They say they're more informed now as far as what they need to do to get to that next level. Talk about what you think Fats found out and where his direction goes from here.
Well, I think Fats, again, he did an excellent job of putting himself on the map last year. And he showed tremendous growth. And I think with the NBA executives, in a nutshell, have kind of, and again, you're hearing this third party kind of, but from my conversations with the NBA execs as well, they were very pleased with his progress. They were very pleased with his transition more into the role of playing, the lead guard. His decision making obviously improved tremendously last year. He became not just a scorer, but also a playmaker for us. His defense was off the charts. So I think at the end of the day, they want to see him continue to mature, maybe put on a little bit of muscle mass, because he'll have to, be physically strong enough to endure a long season and, at the next level, as well as the physicality. And just continuing to hone his skills and his craft. More than anything right now, again, he has the athleticism, they know that. He has the speed, they know that. He has the scoring ability. It's just all about putting it all together, so that you are truly a professional player.
And Coach, you not only get back a potential All-American, a potential Player of the Year, certainly a candidate for that in the Atlantic 10 going in, but you also get your leader back, right? As you look at the roster for next year, he is clearly the guy that's going to lead you.
Absolutely. And with the roster, I'm sure we're going to talk about it, with the roster that we have, with some new faces and, just a few returning guys. Yeah, it was key. It was tantamount to this program's trajectory to have an individual like Fats return. Obviously, not only because of his production on the court, but as you just mentioned, because of his leadership abilities and his qualities. And, he's like, what's it, E.F. Hutton? I probably dated myself there. But when he does talk, the team listens. It does resonate, with them. And he's a winner, and we all know he's a warrior. So we're fortunate for all of those reasons to have him back in the fold.
Without question. Coach, I found out, like everybody else, at 8 o'clock last night, watching his Instagram account. How did you find out? Did Fats give you a call?
No, it's actually the same way. I had spoken to Fats earlier in the day. We had our teams. Yesterday was our team Zoom. I had also spoken to him the day before. I felt good about where it was at. I was not trying to, pressure him one way or the other. This is a lifelong decision for him, and a very important one. But I felt good about it going into it. I know that he had, set the announcement for 8 o'clock. I don't have an Instagram account. I'm not quite there yet. I just got the Twitter a couple of years ago, so I'm working my way into that world. But fortunately, I have two siblings. They're all over social media, so they were my sideline reporters last night.
Did you hear that? Coach, when I have an account that you don't have, you're way behind, believe me. That's not a good sign.
Yeah, my daughter tells me that all the time.
Coach, have you had any reaction from any of Fats' teammates on the team to his announcement last night?
Yeah, no, they're all excited. You know what? I think the new guys are even more excited. You know, just for the potential of playing with Fats. I know that just a couple of weeks ago, both the twins reached out to me and they were like, "How can we get this done, Coach?" You know, got to get him back. I've got to have the opportunity to play with him potentially. So, you know, guys have been, they've given him his space, you know, enough to make a decision, but they've also stayed in constant communication with Fats and to let him know that, you know, hey, we want you back. We need you back.
Yeah, unfortunately for the Twins, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. We'll talk about that, the NCAA Council, Division I Council, and the rulings from yesterday in our next segment. But, Coach, I want to hit on a couple of other things before we take our break. One is, you mentioned your conversations with players and team meetings and things like that. The NCAA, while you're all remote, they're at home, have allowed you a certain amount of hours of virtual training each week. How have you used those?
Well, the virtual training actually just let me backtrack. We've been in this pandemic now for about 7, 8 weeks, 9 weeks, something like that. So, you know, this is obviously new to everybody, new to the NCAA as well. So, you know, they have tried to regulate this as best that they can. The rule in regards to the, you know, the activities is somewhat new. About 3 weeks ago, they had prohibited us from having any sort of contact with the guys in regards to, you know, having them do physical activities. And now they've changed that. And I would assume, again, this is a fluid situation, just like recruiting is a fluid situation. You know, it's subject to change week to week. What we've been doing in the interim, at least from day one, is we've been in constant communication with our guys, obviously through calling them, FaceTime, and texting. But then with the Zoom, you know, for the last 5 weeks, 4 days out of the week, what we do as a staff is we take 1 to 3 guys and we get them on Zoom and we just talk to them, you know, about whatever, basketball, life, academics, what have you. Every Wednesday, we get the entire team on the Zoom and we talk to the team. Or we'll have them on Zoom and we will we'll have a speaker and just allow the speaker to basically speak to them. They'll put it on mute. It's just like having a great speaker drop some gems. The speakers that we've had thus far have been outstanding. We've had so far the assistant general manager for the Oklahoma City Thunder, Troy Weaver, who was a mentor of mine for 30 years or so in the business. We've also had Cuttino Mobley on, you know, former player, to speak to our guys, and he was outstanding. We also had Quinn Cook on. So both Quinn Cook, who plays with the Lakers now. Quinn Cook is also from the D.C. area. I've known him for about 15 years. Both him and Troy Weaver were actually just highlighted on that Showtime show, PG County in the Water, last Friday with Kevin Durant. And then we had John Rothstein on as well. So we've been staying in, you know, finding different ways to stay in constant communication, keep them entertained while also making it educational as well.
Excellent stuff, Coach. Excellent. We're going to take a break. When we come back, I want to talk about your roster, certainly a little down the road. But next up, we're going to be joined by Thor Bjorn, and we're going to talk about the NCAA Division I Council's decisions from yesterday. Also talk about virtual graduation. You're proud of your guys for virtually walking across the stage, and plenty more in scheduling as far as what lies ahead, both for football and basketball, with Thor joining us as well. More of the Dave Cox Radio Show coming up in just a little bit. Be back with you in a bit. Welcome back once again to the Dave Cox Radio Show from Learfield IMG College, driven by Lexus of Warwick. I want to thank our friends at Ortho RI. Experience a different kind of care at Ortho Rhode Island. Our doctors take the time to listen, educate, support patients, empowering them to play an active role in their care. Learn more about getting the treatment you deserve at orthopedicsri.com. I want to welcome Dave Cox back, of course, to the Dave Cox Radio Show. What would it be without him? And Thor Bjorn, the athletic director at the University of Rhode Island, joins us as well. Thor, hope everybody's healthy and safe in your family. How are things going?
Great, Steve. Thanks so much. Great to see you. Everybody's doing well. Thank you. And just kind of plugging away and looking forward to hopefully getting back to some real life sports here in the near future.
Absolutely. We want to talk to you about the scheduling, whether it be with basketball and football, and also later on about some of the financial hurdles that all athletic departments are facing during these times. But let's start off with one two good notes. Virtual graduation at URI. Coach, we'll start with you. Jeff Dowden, Cyril Langevin, Eric Datica, Jordan Green, all virtually walked across that stage.
Absolutely. Another 4-for-4 year. We're really just, we're excited for those young men. We had an opportunity as a staff to do a Zoom call with all four of them yesterday, just to kind of congratulate them, get an update on their status, and invite them back to Rhode Island whenever. All four of those guys had such a great impact on the program. Obviously, Jeff and Cyril with their play and their production and their leadership. And then, both Jordan and Eric with all of their contributions to the program. I'm so happy for all four of them. And as I mentioned, this is something we take great pride in, just as a staff, having our guys not only eligible, but making sure that they also graduate. So 4-for-4 this year. We're really, excited about that. We're excited about those young men's futures as well. And we had a chance to talk with them yesterday. And it was great. It was a great feeling.
I know for you and for Dan, when you came in together here to set this program up, there were two records. It was a one-loss record, and that's gone very well, and it was a graduation record.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We take tremendous pride in that. And again, I would be remiss if I sat here and took all the credit myself. I think the assistant coaches did an outstanding job of establishing those relationships with those players and also reiterating the importance of academics. But none of this would have been done without Meredith. She's our academic advisor, and she's our mother, aunt, advisor. I've even been down there and sat on her couch a few times. So she's the best, and because of her, we've continued this tradition of graduating our seniors, and we take great pride in that.
All of them, proud of all of them. Jordan Green, kinesiology. Eric Datica, accounting. Cyril Langevin, human development, family studies. Jeff Dowden, magna cum laude. He's a business major, 3-time all-academic A10. While you're proud of all of them, for Jeff, those are pretty high credits.
Yeah, well, Steve, again, I've got to take all credit for that. He was the first guy that I recruited. I knew exactly what I was doing. I knew that we would get 2 championships at least out of him. I'm a little disappointed that we didn't get 3. The magna cum laude, I'll take it. But this is what I had anticipated when I recruited him. No, just again, outstanding young man. We all know who Jeff is, what he stands for. He's a winner. He's a team guy. And he's an intelligent young man, and the world will be his oyster. I can assure you of that. As of right now, both he and Cyril are obviously, pursuing the professional basketball route. Both of them have signed with agents, but they're in a holding pattern just like everybody else is right now.
Yeah, it's a crazy situation for them with everybody's schedule and such flux. Thor, I want to bring you in. Obviously, you're proud of those guys and across the athletic department, all the student athletes who graduated. I also want to bring in the announcement that Dave Dooley made the other day, saying that he's going to step down after another year's time. It'll make it 11 years as the president of the university. If you could talk, Thor, about your pride in the kids and also your relationship with Doc Dooley. I know you and he got a lot accomplished.
No, thank you very much, Steve. It's great to see you. Yeah, I'll tell you, commencement's always a special day, and although it was, it was virtual, I've got to give Michelle Carreri on the president's chief of staff did an amazing job with her team of pulling together a special Sunday afternoon. Certainly not what anybody had hoped for. Commencement on the quad is really, really special. After being here for my 13th year, I got to see over these past few years just what it's all about. And I know our kids feel bad. And personally speaking, my twins, Stephanie and Robin, graduated on Sunday, and I know they were bummed. But, we sat around as a family and watched the ceremony online at our home. And I know a lot of other our student athletes did the same. And so I always enjoy walking around and seeing their faces. I got to see a lot of their obviously, as opposed to Coach Cox, I do have an Instagram account, and I was able to see a lot of our student athletes posting some videos and photos and so forth. So it was a lot of fun. And again, was it ideal? Of course not, because we all want to be in person. But I think the university did a really incredible job of making all the students that graduated feel really special and know that they're very important.
Thoughts about Dave Dooley and his impact on this university?
Dave's been someone that I've grown very close with over the last 10 years. And, we've been through a lot together. And I think where Dave has been the greatest help to me is during difficult times. since the first day I met him, I remember thinking to myself, he's a very calm thinker. He doesn't panic. He does, he's able to digest information and come forward with some suggestions on how to get through it. And there's no secrets that prior to Coach Cox getting here and Coach Hurley getting here, we were dealing with some APR issues. I'll never forget that, going up to Dave Dooley's house and having a conversation with him and just talking through and dealing with things like how are we going to get through this. Getting his level of support to get creative with various aspects of support in terms of, athletics had to go out and get aggressive and really, I think, get creative with building up external levels of support. And certainly Dave was a supporter of that.
And we look forward to the next year with him as well. Yeah,
absolutely right. Yeah, I'm very grateful for the time we spent together.
Coach Cox, a word about Dave, Doc Dooley.
Yeah, I would certainly echo those sentiments. I've been here for over 6 years now. I met Dr. Dooley when I first arrived here. Both him and his wife, Lynn, Dr. Dooley and Dr. Dooley, have been not only supporters of this program, but they've also been personal supporters of both myself and my family. And, that's not, I don't think, normal, to be honest with you. They've reached out to me and welcomed me and made me feel a part of this community from the day I stepped onto this campus. Obviously, the support that they provided to this program has been tremendous and has been, key in us getting to where we are as a program. They will both be sorely missed on a professional level because of this support, but on a personal level, they will also be missed. I do recall being an assistant coach, being out on the floor an hour before the game and at home games and having Dr. Dooley walk down from the suites and come down and check my pulse and see if the guys were ready and then give me some encouraging words. And, I'll always be grateful for that support. Next year, we'll make sure that we send him out with the bang.
Sounds good. Hey, we want to talk about a couple of very important decisions made yesterday. NCAA Division I Council met two big issues on the table: transfer eligibility and a return to campus for student athletes. They pushed the vote for the transfer eligibility, which would make transfers one-time eligible without any type of penalty to transfer, until January. So nothing effectively will be done this year. It may go into effect for next year, but that's down the road. What it means is that transfers of the non-graduates who do not have a waiver will have to sit out for 1 year, and that has a big impact on the University of Rhode Island. We'll talk about that. Thor, first, your thoughts on the decision on that issue by the council yesterday.
I respect all the folks on the council and just a really great group of leaders in this business. It's interesting to me, and maybe I'm a little bit biased. I think, whatever drove this decision about the one-time transfer, and I believe in my heart I believe it was going to happen this year. If the COVID-19 issue didn't come into play, I believe that the vote would have been taken and the one-time transfer exception for sports like men's basketball, women's basketball, football would have come into play. It got delayed because of this for a number of different reasons. I think that just opens up a lot of opportunity for discussion around appeals. And, we certainly have some young men on the basketball side that fall into that category, that made decisions well in advance of yesterday in terms of transferring. A lot of the talk, and obviously the rules hadn't changed up to that point, but I think in good faith, student athletes made the decision to transfer with an understanding that most likely this was going to happen. I think that opens up a real good justification for appeals moving forward, going into this year. For one, why is a rule good a year from now when we all know it's probably going to pass, as opposed to today? The only people that are going to be adversely affected are those that made the decision this spring to transfer. Now, whether or not we agree that the transfer rule is a good one or not is in my opinion, is almost irrelevant. The rule is going to get changed, I believe, and as a result of that, these kids, have an opportunity or should have an opportunity to play. I, for one, believe, Steve, and I know you didn't ask me this question, but there should be some sort of academic component tied to transferring. Similar to the APR, but there's measurements that show various levels of success based upon certain GPAs that you have when you transfer, with the whole idea of how you're going to graduate in 4 years. If you're going to come in and transfer to another institution, you have to be in position to graduate in 4 years. That's what we're all about. And I think that that's what the council will be looking at in time. But moving forward, we're certainly going to be aggressive. Coach Cox knows this in terms of working on appeals for some of these young kids, and with the hope that they can join us this fall.
Coach Cox, your thoughts on the decision and also the impact it has on your program and your strategy for appeals, or your intent for appeals going forward, because you got the Mitchell twins, Malik Martin, and we can break some news here. Alan Bertrand, the transfer from Towson, who had verbally announced that he was coming to URI. The paperwork is now done, official as of literally a few minutes ago, and as far as the announcement goes, and he will be eligible to attend the University of Rhode Island. So you got a lot of guys on the line in this field, Coach. Give us an update if you could.
Well, just in regards to the rule in itself, I feel the exact same way Thor does. To be honest with you, I wasn't obviously a big fan of the rule. I think I expressed that at some point when we spoke earlier, just the effect that it would have obviously on mid-major and low-major programs. With that being the case, I'm with Thor. If they are going to apply the rule at some point, and we know that it's coming, more than likely next year, don't know why it wouldn't just happen, right now. Whatever. With that being the case, though, we were prepared. We had numerous conversations with the families as an administration and as a staff about potentially, filing waivers for the young men who qualified. Again, we're not making up stories or anything like that, but for those who qualify, we will go through the waiver process with them and obviously hope for the best. With that being said, we've got to figure it out. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Last year I didn't anticipate going throughout the season with 8 players, but we did that. 8 players. There were a couple of games last year where we only had 7 players available. So we will make adjustments. We will make do. We will also pray that the basketball gods are on our side and allow some of these waivers to come through.
Yeah, without the waivers, you're at 7 players right now on the roster. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Thor, what is the waiver process?
Sure. What we've actually done is we've gone out and hired the services of what I believe is one of the top NCAA firms in the country, appeal firms in the country, Bond, Chenick & King. We're going to work with them on putting together, as Dave said, a very straightforward, transparent waiver application under these different circumstances for these different young men, and see how it plays out. That will then go before folks at the NCAA who make a determination. Staff will make the determination whether or not the criteria that we've included in our appeal is a justification for some of these players to be able to play next year. So, as Dave said, we're going full steam ahead with that. We actually were planning on that. We've been working on that for the last 4 or 5 weeks to get them engaged, and that's been done. And so now they're working with these student athletes and with our staff to put together all the appropriate paperwork, and we certainly hope that gets submitted very quickly and then get an outcome pretty quickly, so we know what we're dealing with.
Thor, I anticipate that Rhode Island is not going to be the only school to do this. They're going to be flooded with waiver applications given this rule. Do you see the NCAA having any type of a blanket decision, or are they going to take them on a case-by-case basis?
They have to take them on a case-by-case basis now because the rule, because of the vote on this decision's gotten pushed off. That's why we anticipated this and really have been proactive. We knew it was going to take a little bit of time to actually engage the services of a firm like the one we engaged with because of the high-profile nature of them. But we did that, and again, we wanted to be on the front end of this. I think it was pretty good anticipation, and I know that even as a law firm, they're going to start getting inundated with more and more people that want to be involved with this. So having the process already in play and the work already being done, I feel like we're in as good a position as we possibly can be in. We don't control a lot of it, but at the end of the day, I feel really good about the approach we're taking. And we'll see. But to answer your question, Steve, no, there won't be a blanket waiver. There unfortunately can't be. But it is interesting to me. I do keep thinking whether or not Coach or I agree with the concept of what this new rule will be a year from now, most likely. The fact that you have one more class that it's decided for whatever reason, these young people will be negatively impacted by this decision to push it off. I just can't, it doesn't make sense to me. I'm not saying I'm right and they're wrong. It just, personally speaking, doesn't make sense to me. And that alone is grounds for appeal, although we're certainly looking at additional information over and above that.
We've seen these waiver processes drag on and on and on. What is the timetable in your eyes for decisions?
It's usually pretty, once you get your documents in place and everything, together, they can make a decision pretty quick. I don't know the exact time frame, Steve, whether it's a week or 10 days or whatnot, but once everything's submitted, they move relatively quickly on it. They know that they have to. And the NCAA, the staff does a great job in terms of going through it. I can't say we always agree with their decisions. I'm not being disrespectful in that regard. Anytime a decision doesn't go your way, you don't necessarily agree with it. But I know they're going to have a lot. And when you think about the amount of transfers that especially college basketball has been dealing with for the last 10 years, it's only going to get worse. I think that's one of the reasons why the appeals are becoming just massive. And I think that's why the recommendation from the NCAA staff was to make provide the one-time transfer, that along with some legal issues that were going on. Again, I think it was inevitable. It is inevitable. It just makes sense. And so within process, they'll move quickly once we get everything submitted. And we hope to have that done, pretty in the very near future. That's certainly what a lot of our folks are working really almost exclusively on.
Going to take a quick break. Thor, I want to address football. June 1st is the date that both football and basketball can get players back on campus. Want to talk about the logistics of all that when we come back. Dave Cox Radio Show, more coming up. Welcome back to the Dave Cox Radio Show. People's Credit Union, the proud sponsor of the 3-Point Co-op Shot, which benefits URI's 4-H programs for kids all around Rhode Island. Visit them online at peoplecu.com. Steve McDonald with Dave Cox and also Thor Bjorn. Thor, we're going to concentrate on you, football and basketball. Got the word that June 1st will be the first day that student athletes are allowed on campus. What's the logistics with football? Such big numbers on bringing those guys back. It's a voluntary workout situation.
Steve, it's funny. Unfortunately, when some of the rules come out, they become a little misleading, and this is one of them. There's so many different factors, whether or not when you can bring student athletes back to individual campuses and so forth. And I know some are already talking about it. Others, like Rhode Island, we're not in position to do that yet because of various mandates like 14-day quarantine periods. Other challenges like that are still in play within the state, which certainly makes this a challenge. So are we able to put together, like right now with June 1st, to have formal workout mandated programs? They can be done at home. They can be done virtually. In the past, they weren't even allowed to be in that mode. So we're working really hard as an institution. We're working hard. I know under the guidance of the state and the Department of Health about how we're going to reopen. There's certainly, I think we may have a couple student athletes on campus right now. But in terms of bringing them back, allowing them to work out in our own facilities, there's still a lot more work that needs to be done. Andy Laguna, our Associate Athletic Director for Health and Performance, has been working now for 2 weeks on a athletic department task force made up of a number of different folks within the department and externally about making sure that we bring our students back in a very safe and safe environment, safe way. That also falls in line with what the university is going to be mandated to do under the state guidelines. So unfortunately, it's just not as simple as saying June 1st hits and we're able to do or bring students to campus. There's a lot more to it than that. As of today, my understanding is there's still a 14-day quarantine period. So if you're bringing, students back to campus, that's the equivalent, in all honesty, of having them stay in their dorm room for 14 days, getting out to use the restroom. That's it. Food being delivered. That's not the how we want to bring students back. If we ever get to that point, then we'll deal with it. But I think until things are in a better place, there's still a lot of work to be done.
So that quarantine may be lifted in stage 2, and if it were, then it would make things a lot easier.
Yeah, it certainly would make things easier, whenever it gets to that point. I'm sure someday it will. But when that quarantine, for a lot of our students are out of state, or student athletes, most of them are. And so that's my understanding, they would still fall into that category. And that really would be not good.
How do you get these kids back? I mean, you don't want them flying necessarily. It's not the safest way to go right now.
Yeah, that's another factor, getting them here to campus. Again, we're lucky. Most of our students are drivable, and but there's a lot of logistics, and that's a big part of what Andy's team is working on.
Do you bring it back football, such big numbers? You bring it back in small groups rather than all en masse?
Yeah, as part of our planning goes forward, right now all classes are still virtual. Our plan is to not bring anybody back right now, and we're not looking at that June 1st as a date that we have to say we've got to reach. That wouldn't be realistic. I think, as we start thinking about what does July look like, that's really been more of our thought anyway. Do we look at summer session 2 again virtually? Classes being delivered virtually, but do we look at the ability to maybe bring some of them back at that time? That's certainly part of our conversation. What we're doing though, Steve, is we're really putting our plan together as though we're bringing our 4 sports teams, volleyball, the 2 soccers, and football, back for the normal start date of August 1st, knowing that very well may be pushed off, areas of things we don't control. But we need to know that that's a given date that we can then, once we make our plans to bring them back, then we can adjust however we need to. We can adjust backwards if we have a 14-day quarantine mandate. We can adjust forwards if the state's not ready or the university's not ready for us to bring our students back yet. So that's been our major focus, and still a lot of moving parts. It's been a very unique challenge, but I feel really good about our planning that's in play. I feel really good about it.
Thor, ESPN.com, big story this morning about the financial hardships of athletic departments throughout the country given the pandemic. They talk about the possibility, and we've seen it already, in dropping of sports programs at schools, freezing of coaches and administrators' salaries, furloughs, layoffs, schedule adjustments, elimination of conference tournaments, a lot of different things on the table. What's the status as far as URI is concerned?
Yeah, we're dealing with certainly some unprecedented financial challenges across the board. And a lot of it is certainly things that we're not even aware of yet, Steve, but we know, for example, the NCAA revenue that we normally would be getting is about 30% of what we anticipated. You got factors that if all of a sudden football doesn't play Northern Illinois and next fall, our plan is to play them, but if we don't, there's a $400,000 guarantee that we don't get. God forbid we ever have to play basketball games in front of smaller crowds in the Ryan Center. If there's certain mandates that are in play, that's a financial impact. Those are things that we're working on and dealing with. The 8-10, we had our meetings last week, and we made the decision to really focus on, regular season conference play that's going to be more regional outside of men's and women's basketball. We're working with our Olympic sports to focus on bus travel only. We have some really good teams. Baseball, for example, I know has a really good team and a very aggressive schedule for next year. So, but there's just things that we're not going to be able to do from a funding perspective and so forth. So, yeah, this is unprecedented times. It's, certainly where we need a lot of people's support and help. But then also we're going to be continue to be very proactive in terms of reducing our budgets. I believe, and I've been saying this, I believe in all my heart, this is a one-year problem with maybe a little bit of carryover, but certainly from an NCAA distribution, as long as the men's basketball tournament's played next year, they'll be able to then distribute the funds back to the conference offices, who will then trickle them down to us, and that's a big funding source for us. So, that's important.
Got about a minute and a half to go. Likelihood that there is a football season at all, and B, that there's a football season that looks like the seasons we've seen.
Steve, again, because we don't know a lot, we're planning as though it is. We're planning as though that we're going to be playing 11 games just like we normally would. One thing that we always do, though, is we're and believe that we're not going to do anything to put our student athletes at risk. So we got to make sure that the science justifies everything that we're going to ultimately do. That's why Andy is the right person on our staff to be leading this initiative. Some people will say there's no shot at fall sports. I don't like that attitude. I'd rather go with the other way of saying we're playing until we can't play. But again, we don't control it. It's going to be up to a lot of other folks. The only thing we can control is our planning, and that's what we're doing. And we have to plan and be able to adjust to whatever comes our way.
And for basketball, looking forward to that season, do you anticipate that'll be affected in some ways because of this?
It could, but I hope not. Again, that's still so far off in terms of timing. And, it seems like all the smartest people in the world are working on how to deal with this issue. And, so long as they keep doing their work, I hope that there's, things in play to allow life to continue as we're all accustomed to. And so again, I'd like to keep thinking that we're going to get back. Some people call this the new normal. I refuse to do that. I call this a temporary pain, but I'm
Sounds good.
get back to the real normal. And
Thor, thanks so much for being with us. Quick
Thanks,
break. Dave will be
See you.
back with some breaking news just a bit. Welcome back to the Dave Cox Radio Show. Coach, some breaking news. Alan Bertrand, the kid out of Towson, now eligible and officially paperwork is in. He's a URI Ram.
Outstanding. We are truly excited about this young man. He brings to the table all of the aspects of a championship caliber player. He's obviously very talented. He's a shooter. He can score the ball at all three levels. He's a physical specimen, and he's a very good defender. As a sophomore, I think he garnered third team all conference in the Colonial Athletic Conference. So he's a young man who's going to come here. He's got college experience. He's going to bring a level of physicality and toughness, a scoring ability that we will need and we kind of rely on. So we're just really excited about him, and he's a great young man who comes from great stock. I think he went to Roman Catholic High School, a very well-known high school in Philadelphia. He's got a great family support. So we're really excited about his addition.
Butler, Dayton, Richmond, some good company in the recruiting process.
Absolutely. He garnered great attention, and it was well-deserved. I mean, again, he put together two really good seasons, especially his sophomore year. And, we were fortunate to come out of the fray with the victory.
And Georgetown also on the early list. So good going there, Coach. Now we got to get him eligible, right? Get that waiver in.
That's right.
Get these people playing. Coach Cox, thanks so much for being with us. Continued success as the summer goes along. You get the kids back on campus.
Thank you, Steve.